All right, the next one is two questions back to back, but about the same topic. So we got question number 7 asking about DIOR HOMME PARFUM, and then also question number 8 asking about DIOR HOMME PARFUM, but they're asking different things about the fragrance. I'm going to answer both of them in the same segment. Good evening, Sebastian. I hope this email finds you well. I'm a big fan of your channel and your work, and I recently watched your video on DIOR HOMME PARFUM. While I've mostly been interested in niche or fragrance house colognes in the past few years, your video has piqued my interest in trying out the DIOR HOMME PARFUM. However, I've run into a bit of confusion during my research. I've been searching for the Parfum version online, but I keep coming across the Eau de Toilette version the most. The only website I've found that carries the Parfum version is Fragrance Lord, but the price is a bit higher than what I had in mind, closer to $200. I'm wondering if you could advise me on whether the EDT version could be a good alternative, or if the EDP version is the one with the distinct scent that everyone raves about. I appreciate any advice or suggestions you can offer. Best regards, Ezekias, I think that's how you say the name. So it's two different questions. I'll answer the first question. DIOR HOMME PARFUM, where to buy it? So this is DIOR HOMME PARFUM. It's the 100 ml version, launched in 2020. Originally, the 2014 version came in a 75 ml bottle, and they were a little different. I believe the original was certainly more dense and thicker, but I've been happy with the 100 ml version, but it has gotten a little lighter than the original. So maybe that's why it's now coming in 100 ml. So it's softened up a little bit, lightened up a little bit. And so they can, give you more juice, but you're going to spray more to make it last longer. So where do you buy it from? Let me tell you the story. There's been so many stories about this. It's actually on a database online. Wiki Parfum claims that it's discontinued. And I started saying it was discontinued after I saw that they were saying it was discontinued. But it's not discontinued. Last year, when I went to... I've been to France twice already this year. And late last year, I went to... Well, actually, I went to France in September or October last year. And I saw DIOR HOMME PARFUM selling. It's not selling widely, but it's still selling. It's never been distributed in the States. In fact, DIOR HOMME Intense hasn't either, I don't think. The only one that came to the States is DIOR HOMME, the original. And then there's DIOR HOMME 2020, which is completely different than the original DIOR HOMME. And then it's considered DIOR HOMME as well. So there's two DIOR HOMMEs. One's called DIOR HOMME Original, which is the only fragrance that used to be. Now they have the DIOR HOMME 2020, which is more of a American fragrance or a US fragrance, but I think it's selling everywhere. We've had the DIOR HOMME Cologne here as well. We've also had the DIOR HOMME Sport. So those are the three versions. But DIOR HOMME Parfum is still selling. It's not selling very easy. Like, you can't find it everywhere. Some of the places put them under stock, so you have to ask. They don't even put a tester, like the Printemps store in Paris. But I've been to Dior perfume shops and they have them there, like they'll sell them. And recently in March, when I was coming back at the airport, I noticed that they had it for around 150 euros at the Paris airport, Charles de Gaulle. And if you bought two, it went down to around $112 or 112 euros each. So I brought back two. It's not very easy to find, but if you want to get a bottle, it's about $180 over at Fragrance Buy, and I've got it linked in the info box. Hopefully by the time this video airs, they're still selling some. They've had stock there since November of last year, or maybe a little earlier. So those of you that are in the market, get it, because it's costly to go to France and bring it. And even though its suggested retail is around 150 euros, with the conversion, it's maybe close to around 170. So yeah, I mean, it's around 180 selling on Fragrance Buy, and that's the place you can buy it currently. It's mail order. You would order it from Canada. It would be shipped to the USA. If you're in Canada, perhaps in Canada. But if you're in Europe, check stores there. You should be able to find it. But that's how or where you would buy it. Now the differences. I'm going to go over the differences here between all of the fragrances. So DIOR HOMME Cologne has gone through multiple variations, and this is the 2022 version. DIOR HOMME Cologne is the softest, but it's not my least favorite. Absolutely love this, but it's very light. Smell-wise, it's amazing. Although it has gotten even softer compared to the previous version, but still, I really love it. It's powdery, it's citrusy, and it's floral, and of course it's musky. But this one doesn't, they don't claim that the iris is in here, and the DIOR HOMME DNA is known for the iris, so they claim that the iris is not here, but maybe it is because I'm getting powdery touches, or maybe it's coming from the white musk. It's quite musky, and it's very fresh and clean. I think it'll be great for a hot day. Or once again, you can also use this to use as a mood booster, something uplifting, because it's such a gorgeous smell. Really wonderful. Very citrusy and very musky. And so this is the lightest, and you can get this in the States. It's distributed here in the States. I don't know if stores carry them, but the Dior USA website carries this. So you can order it there. Next, I'm going to talk to you about the DIOR HOMME Sport, and there is a 2021 version that stores are selling here. No, I think you can get the Cologne at stores as well. I think Neiman Marcus has it at the Dior department. And I bought this bottle of DIOR HOMME Sport at the Neiman Marcus here. Unfortunately, the DIOR HOMME Sport is my least favorite of the DIOR HOMME fragrances. I think it's an unnecessary fragrance personally. Although it's no de toilette, I wish DIOR HOMME Cologne, even though I think this is called DIOR HOMME Cologne, I believe the concentration is eau de toilette, from what I remember once before, but they could have changed it. Doesn't say. So maybe they did make it back to, because at one time I think the concentration was eau de toilette, even though it was called. It doesn't really say. So then perhaps it's a cologne. But DIOR HOMME Sport is an eau de toilette. It's Italian lemons, aldehydes, Calabrian, bergamot, Elemi resin, pink pepper, frankincense, woods, and amber. I guess it's okay, but between all of the fragrances, I don't like this one as much. It's just kind of a boring scent. It's citrusy, it's spicy, it's resinous, it's a bit smoky, and I think the combination is not working well. At least this version, the 2021 version, I preferred the previous version more, which I have a bottle and I've stored it away because it's been replaced by this. But this is what you can buy now. If you like the idea, go with it. But to me, it doesn't smell like the DNA that I really love. The DIOR HOMME Parfum DNA, which is my favorite. We'll get to that in a little bit. So we've got DIOR HOMME Original, which is sadly we've got a little bit left in here. Really little bit. I first discovered this collection in 2014. Although I was traveling to France constantly, I would skip the DIOR HOMME fragrances, and not sure why. But I first discovered it in 2014. And then Macy's launched DIOR HOMME Eau, which is no longer, which would have been here if it was still selling. So it was a watery, aquatic, or maybe slight marine take on the DNA, which I didn't care for. The original is a fresh take on the DNA that I really love. It's iris, cardamom, vetiver, lavender, patchouli, cocoa, amber, sage, bergamot, and leather. So the leather is not as potent. It's basically, like I said, the DNA with the iris that I really, really love. Just a fresher version of it, but not as fresh as the cologne. And to me, the cologne also doesn't smell like the original. Doesn't whatsoever. Maybe very minute amounts of it. But there's something sexy about the original DIOR HOMME DNA. Not the 2020 DIOR HOMME, which is getting confusing now. But the original the original DNA. The original launched, I believe, sometime in the 2000s, 2005, 2007. I never was into it at that time, and I believe it was created by Hedi Slimane, who is now part of Celine. So he was the creative director for that fragrance, and people swear by that original DIOR HOMME, which was the first version of it. But if you're looking for DIOR HOMME Original, make sure you get DIOR HOMME Original and not DIOR HOMME 2020, which is this, and they're completely different fragrances. DIOR HOMME Original will smell like iris. It's powdery, but still fresh. DIOR HOMME 2020 is woods. Lots of woods and spices. So, DIOR HOMME 2020 launched in 2020, and it was a complete departure from the DNA of the original DIOR HOMME. Sure, it's a pleasant fragrance. I prefer it over DIOR HOMME Sport. But it's just woods. Haitian vetiver, Musk, Atlas Cedar, Patchouli, Pink Pepper, Elemi, and Bergamot. It's fresh, it's woody, it's pleasant. If you're looking for something nondescript, not too exciting, I wouldn't call this a very exciting fragrance because a lot of it is just woods. There's some resinous touches and some citruses in there and spices, but it's mostly woods. You'll be happy with it, but make sure you don't think you're getting the original DIOR Homme with the iris and you end up with the DIOR Homme 2020. And here's the other thing. The original DIOR Homme, which is the DIOR Homme original, as you can see right there, is not really sold here in the States unless you get them at a discounter if they end up at the discounter. And I don't know how widely distributed this is, and I don't even know if this is still selling. Hopefully it is. But DIOR Homme 2020 is the one that's sold here in the States, and a lot of people go there and buy it, and they'll be like, what is this? It doesn't smell like anything that reviewer was talking about. What did I end up getting here? So you might do that. So be warned. Make sure to get DIOR Homme original when you buy DIOR Homme. That's definitely very, very important. So the next fragrance is the DIOR Homme Intense. This is where it gets really sexy. So I bought my first DIOR Homme fragrance out of everything as DIOR Homme Intense, probably around 2014 or 2013, somewhere around there. And instantly loved it, and I loved the DNA, and I was obsessed with the way it smells. Here's this version. So is this a 2020 version? Did they redo it in 2020? Because online it says 2011, but I believe they redid it in 2020, correct? Anybody know this? So it's basically taking the original, DIOR Homme original, not the 2020 version, which was the only version around at the time, and intensifying it and amplifying it. So this version, DIOR Homme Intense, is Eau de Parfum. The one that I always rave and recommend and suggest is the DIOR Homme Parfum, which is a parfum concentration, and I'll get to that in a little bit. So this is amplified. The freshness is gone from the DIOR Homme original, and they've added, of course, they amplified the iris. There's Ambrette here, Lavender, Pear, Cedar, Vetiver. It's super sexy. It's really, really good. If we did not have DIOR Homme Parfum, this would be amazing. This is amazing. This is fantastic. So it's a great alternative for DIOR Homme Parfum. If you can't get a bottle of DIOR Homme Parfum, go with the DIOR Homme Intense because it's somewhat similar, missing the leather that's in here and the kind of like oudi notes that are in here. But other than that, it's just a fresher take on the Parfum, a more concentrated take on the original. But it's super sexy. It'll do. If you can't find a Parfum, this will do fine. But look for the Parfum. But my first venture into this collection was with the Intense around 2013, 2014. But they redid the DIOR Homme Parfum in 2020. And this is the version to look for if you're looking for this collection. This is the best. For me, it's the best. I absolutely love this. I love that whole intense, dense, powdery effect that's in here, along with the iris, the sandalwood, the leather, ambrette, oud, cedar, rose, orange. It's so amazing. The combination is amazing. And again, Parfum is the best. The Intense is an EDP, Eau de Parfum. The DIOR Homme original is an Eau de Toilette. DIOR Homme 2020 is an Eau de Toilette. DIOR Homme Sport is an Eau de Toilette. And I believe the DIOR Homme Cologne is Eau de Cologne now. Anyway, hopefully that answers the questions. If you are looking for a bottle of DIOR Homme Parfum, get it from Fragrance Buy. They still have bottles. I have a link in the info box.